John Blake presents The Holocaust Codes, the untold story of decrypting the final solution, written by Christian Jennings and read by Jonathan Keeble. Introduction. On the morning of the 4th of April 1944, a twin-engine de Havilland Mosquito from 60 Squadron, South African Air Force, took off on a reconnaissance mission from San Severo, near Foggia, in southeastern Italy. To save weight, the aircraft carried no machine guns, cannon, or bombs, but only two long focal-length cameras, one mounted under each wing. The South African crew, pilot Lieutenant Charles Barry, DFC, and navigator Lieutenant Ian McIntyre, were tasked with photographing the huge IG Farben industry AG, commonly known as IG Farben, synthetic oil and rubber plant at Monowitz in southern Poland, in preparation for a possible bombing raid. The return flight took 5 hours, and at a height of 26,000 feet, they were over the target for 4 minutes. That day, one of the two cameras was malfunctioning, so, to be sure they obtained adequate images, the crew made 2 passes, from west to east and back again. On the second pass, McIntyre left the cameras running slightly longer than usual to guarantee good coverage. Then the South Africans spotted enemy aircraft, and the unarmed Mosquito turned for home. When the film of the second pass was developed back in Italy, the final frames were found to show a large site containing small buildings laid out in rows. Little attention was paid at the time to these. The target, after all, was the IG Farben plant, 5 miles away. It was only in 1979, some 35 years later, that photo analysts from America's Central Intelligence Agency recognized them for what they were: the first Allied aerial shots of Auschwitz. 80 years after the two South Africans flew that sortie in their unarmed Mosquito, it seems inconceivable that back then the world had not heard of Auschwitz, that the grisly images of rows of barrack blocks, the crematoria, the wire, the railway lines, now so imprinted on human consciousness, could then have been nothing but an anonymous image from the skies, one whose identity would only be recognized and admitted to in 1979. Yet that is how the Holocaust occurred. That is how its physical institutions were concealed, how its perpetrators murdered millions of people, precisely because it was anonymous. It was hidden, and as much as possible of the documentation and evidence was covered up. However, although the camp complex at Auschwitz-Birkenau may have been unrecognizable from a high-flying reconnaissance aircraft, by April 1944, its existence, and the existence of other extermination and concentration camps and programs of mass execution, was the subject of a flood of reports and rumors from inside occupied Europe. Some of the precise details, however, had for some time been known to a select handful of Allied intelligence and government officials in London and Washington. One of the primary ways they had discovered what the Germans were doing was through cryptanalysis, the decryption of encoded SS and German police and intelligence signals that gradually revealed how the Third Reich was murdering 6 million people. That cryptanalysis, that decryption, those signals and that discovery of a state-sponsored program of mass murder is what this book is all about. I spent 15 years as a foreign correspondent, reporting on and investigating wars, genocides, and ethnic conflicts across 23 countries, including Rwanda, Bosnia, Kosovo, and Democratic Congo. Out on the red dirt tracks of Central Africa's Great Lakes region, in the sleety fog of frozen Balkans mornings, and across trails of mass graves and execution sites, I watched and learnt and reported on how genocide and mass atrocities happen. I wrote books on war crimes and international justice in these countries, as well as on the work of the International Commission on Missing Persons, which has revolutionized the science of DNA-assisted identification, helping to identify some of the thousands of people who go missing following conflicts in such areas as the Western Balkans, Iraq, Syria, and Ukraine. Following on from this, I have also written 4 non-fiction books about the Second World War, focusing on both wartime Italy and the Holocaust, while In the Third Reich is Listening
Sample complete. Ready to continue?